Hey guys, it's Mr. Ken with Waxhaw Kid Coders, and in this video we're going to talk about the MicroBit and getting started with this. Will be our part 1 video. This is my MicroBit. This came in a MicroBit Go kit. In that kit you should have received a MicroBit. You should have received this little USB connector. These are the same connectors you'd use with Android phones, by the way. This is just a small one that came with it. And then you should also get this little battery pack with a couple of AAA batteries. The advantage of that is once you download your program into the MicroBit, you can just hook up the batteries and you could just take your program with you, which is really cool. No large computer necessary. So what we're going to do today is just get started. First off, what I want to show you is this website, microbit.org. Great site. Check out what's on it and you can learn more all about the MicroBit. So just a little background, the MicroBit was developed by the BBC. Yes, that's the British Broadcasting Company. And these microbits were distributed to kids in the UK as part of a Learn to Code initiative, and I picked up on them a few months back and started researching them, and I thought they'd be a really cool thing to bring across the lake, or the pond as they say, and bring it here to the kids who are taking classes at Waxhaw Kid Coders. And so far I think the response has been pretty good. There's a pretty versatile little chip. Actually, it's a little microcomputer, I guess you can call it, or some people like to call it an embedded computer or a microcontroller. There's all kinds of different names. Whatever you want to call it, it's just cool. Some of the fun things you could do, you could turn it into you could use this as a brain of a robot if you want to. You could do some cool electronics projects. You could hook sensors to it, all kinds of different things. There's all kinds of sensors built into the MicroBit. You have accelerometers. You can detect light, temperature, all kinds of cool things. And I'm going to show you where you can learn all about that. In addition to, of course, we'll be covering a lot of this stuff in my classes as well. So let's get started. So I recommend, if you want to get started, head over to microbit.makecode.com and hit enter. This is Microsoft's learning environment for the MicroBit, and it's loading up right now. And we're going to do a really quick project, but before you start, you're going to end up on this page here. This is the MicroBit, and you're going to write your code right in this site, which is really, really nice. And what I want you to do, you'll see that there's tutorials here. I highly recommend going through them. Each tutorial also will have some videos, and if you just want to check out the videos and learn more, I highly recommend scrolling all the way down to the bottom of this page, and you will see behind the makecode hardware. I recommend that everybody actually watch these videos. You're going to learn quite a bit about LEDs, the buttons that are on your MicroBit, what an accelerometer is and how they work. Okay, and then as I mentioned, an accelerometer, they're built into the back. You'll see it'll say accelerometer. It'll show you the little tiny micro electronics that control movement and also direction in which your MicroBit's being tilted, and we could do things like make a game controller out of it and do all kinds of fun things. Your MicroBit could also act as a light sensor and a temperature sensor too, and these are great videos. They not only show you a full-size simulation of how these things work, they also show you how to code them as well in here as well. And there's also other courses on here. I can only cover so much. There's literally like I could say 10s, 20s, 20, 30 hours worth of stuff you can do with this. I mean, and that's just what's on here. You can experiment and do all kinds of cool things with this little tiny board. So I definitely recommend going through a lot of the things here. We'll cover a lot of it in class and put our own twists on different things. But for today, really quick, what I wanted to show everybody is how to kind of get going with this thing. To begin with, if you've never have done so. So I have the MicroBit here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my USB cord, and in this little metal part, I'm going to plug it in, the small part here, right in the middle of the USB, and I'm going to plug it into my USB port on my computer. And I am using for this demonstration a Windows 10 computer. and I just got plugged in. Now when it gets plugged in, what's going to pop up on your screen, and let me bring this over, I'm working with two screens here, so I'm going to bring this over. What will happen is it'll pop up, it'll say MicroBit D, so it actually works as a, you plug it in, it's almost like plugging in a flash drive or an external hard drive. It just shows up as a drive on your computer, and basically what you're going to do is download your programs to this drive, and through this makecode site that we have here. If I right click here and I go to, so I'm right clicking over the MicroBit and I go to properties, you can actually see how much space is on your MicroBit free, and you could actually use it as as an extra drive. There's about 64 megabytes of so it's not a whole lot of space, so I wouldn't recommend putting any big files on here, but there is 63 megabytes worth of space on here, so which means you can't really put gigantic programs on here, but for our purposes we'll be well within that realm of 63. Everything you'll see here is fine. So I'm going to push this off to the side for a second, okay, and bring us back here to our makecode.microbit.org page. And we're going to start, rather than do new project, we're going to actually do one of these tutorials, and I recommend going through a few of these. And I want you to click flashing heart, and then I want you to hit start tutorial, and it will load up. It takes about a second or two to load the tutorial up, and it will walk you through, and you just have to kind of follow along and hit OK and next. So it says learn how to use the LEDs and make the flashing heart. Now it says want to learn how the lights work, the LED lights, watch this video. And that video is going to be the same video I showed you that's way down at the bottom of the page, so you could actually watch it up here too. And they're very educational, and I highly recommend that. So we're going to hit OK. So we're going to make this little flashing heart over here, and we're going to hit OK. And it shows us what to do. We go in the basic section and we're going to drag. So this is using block-based coding similar to Scratch, and it makes it much easier to learn, much more fun. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to hit OK over here, and we're going to follow the instructions. We're going to click left on basic. We're going to hold down our left mouse and drag out to forever, and I'm going to draw my heart. I've done this a few times. I finally figured out have to do it right each time. Now you could fill it in if you want, like this, and make it a full flashing heart. I think I'm going to do that. Or you could just leave the center empty if you just want kind of like the outline of the heart. It's up to you. And then we're going to go to the next step. And we're going to add one more just with a blank. We're going to hit OK. And we're going to drop this in right here. Now on this side is what we have, a little emulation of what the MicroBit program that we just wrote will do. And actually these buttons actually will work if you program these buttons. That's for another time. So you could actually test everything that you're doing on the MicroBit right here before you actually download it, which is a good check before you download something you don't want to do. So notice that the heart's flashing at this speed. You might say, isn't that a little slow? Well, that's just the way this processor works. So we didn't have to put any like waits or pauses in between. It just displaying those lights takes up a little time on the processor, and that's the speed in which it should look on your MicroBit, and we're going to download that in a second. So we're going to hit next, and it says look at the virtual MicroBit. You should see the heart blinking, and we did. We're going to hit OK. Okay, look at the virtual MicroBit, same thing. So we're going to hit next, and then it says if you have it connected, which we do. So if you're plugged in and you have the USB connected already, we're going to hit OK, and we're going to it says here click download. And then finish. We're going to hit finish right now just to complete it. You'll notice when you hit finish, you'll now have a few more choices too. Now before we download it, now you notice it's flashing like this, and you could download it and test it like this. I'm going to just show you something really quick. If you wanted to change the speed, so this is the fastest it can possibly flash. Okay, so it won't process any faster than that. So I'm going to change things around a little bit. I'm going to go here to basic, and I'm going to come down here. You could scroll down. I use my little mouse wheel, and I'm going to grab out pause, and I'm going to put a little pause here, and I'm going to have it pause for 2 seconds. Now notice it says pause MS. MS stands for milliseconds, and there is 1,000 milliseconds in 1 second. So 2,000 is going to be 2-second pause. So now it's going to pause for 2 seconds. Notice the difference. It's not just that fast a flicker. It flashes, but it stays up for a couple seconds. So that's the speed I want. You could also add another pause down here if you want to experiment with it. But that's up to you. I'm just going to leave this one. But I just wanted to show you guys how you can kind of regulate the speed of things. And now we're ready to download it. And it says flashing heart. And I'm going to change the name of this. I'm going to call it flashing. So notice I'm right down here. Flashing heart with pause. Okay, and I'm going to hit the save. The save is going to be the same as download. So I'm going to hit save, and you'll notice, and I've saved a few things earlier. That's why you see that. So, and your very latest file is always going to be all the way to the left. And notice it says flashing, and it ends with hex. And what happens is, what we drag and drop isn't actually what's going into the microbit. What's going in is what's called a hex file, and it contains hexadecimal code. And hexadecimal code is basically a base 16 way of, like we use base 10 in our decimal system. This is a base 16, and basically it's a way to kind of wrap up all the ones and zeros into another language, and it just basically gets decoded. As you know, everything that we write just becomes ones and zeros. So hex is just a way of wrapping up those ones and zeros and turning it into machine code and sending it down to the microbit in a nice handy package. The microbit then just interprets the hex code, breaks it down, and you get your program after that. So what we're going to do here is go to our latest downloaded program. I'm going to hit this little caret that was pointing up, and I'm going to also click on Show in Folder. Now when you click on Show in Folder, and I'm going to bring this over here. When Show in Folder pops up, you should see your latest file highlighted. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to do Send To, and notice that my microbit is sitting right there. Okay, so I could just easily send it right to my microbit, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on it. And it's going to load. And perfect. So so again, what I did here, so once this pops up and you see it, you're going to right click your mouse. Again, you're right clicking and you're doing a Send To, and then just left clicking on microbit D. And the important thing to remember is you want to right click here. So very important. Right clicking will bring up this menu. Then you're just going to go to Send To and then microbit D. And once you follow that process, that's all there is to it to get your code to, and I'll just do this one more time just to show you. So the first thing we did is we hit our save button here. Our file came up down here. That means it downloaded to our computer, saved it as a hex file. Okay. We click this little caret that's pointing up here. We're going to click Show in Folder. It shows up. We right click our mouse, Send To, and then microbit D. And when you do that, you'll see your microbit, the light where your reset button is in the back of your microbit will be flashing as you see this going. And you'll see the microbit flashing as well. Mine's flashing, and then once this finishes, the flashing stops, and you'll see your program. Now here's the cool part. You can unplug this from your computer. I'm going to show you guys this real quick. So now it's dead because I have no power to it. But I'm going to plug my battery pack in here. So one important thing about the microbit, and now you can see my heart flashing. Let me get that centered there. I don't know if it's hard to see because I have light shining on here, but my heart is now flashing. So the bottom line is, the last thing that you save, the last program that you save to your microbit, is what will be remembered. Okay, so what we're going to do here, actually think of it like a clipboard, like the the clipboard on your computer when you copy and paste. When you copy something, your clipboard remembers the last thing you copied, and then if you copy something new, it'll replace over. Same thing with the MicroBit. The last program that you send to your MicroBit will be the last thing it remembers, and if you put a new program in there, it'll replace the previous program. Okay, so that's about all I wanted to show you for today using the MicroBit. So be sure, once you're done with this, you can actually click on Home. Okay, go ahead and click Home, and you'll notice you come back here and you can go to another tutorial and try another tutorial and go through that same process that we just did. The getting it onto your MicroBit is the same procedure each time. Another cool thing you can do too, if you actually see someone else's program or want to put someone else's program and they just have it in a hex file and you want to see what code they wrote, you can click over here where it says import, and you can import a hex file into your makecode, which is very cool too. So that's, see, if I hit this, it'll say import file from your computer. Okay, and you could also import from a URL if it's sitting out there on a URL or up in a GitHub. I'm not going to get into that right now, but you get the idea. That's if you wanted to actually work backwards and you actually had the code and you wanted to pull it up and look at someone else's code. So that's an option as well. So hope this helped get you started here. And in my next video, we're going to talk about how to get the MicroBit up and running with Scratch. So stay tuned for part 2 of the MicroBit, and we'll get up and running with Scratch. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.